Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rapid Deployments with Power BI Solution Templates. My name is Richard Kachik. I manage the Power BI Solution Template team.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Justina Lichnik. I'm a program manager on the Solution Template team. So I work on building and evangelizing the templates.
And, well, first off, it's a pretty small setting. If you have a question, just stop us. We're happy to engage in a dialogue rather than just us talking at you. And we're going to just talk about a really clear agenda. We're going to talk what are solution templates. We're going to say why you should care. We've got 3 or so presentations, and we have a partner with us today about how partners can extend solution templates. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you the same thing about what they are and why you should care. So what are they? And first off, how many people here have actually installed one, a Power BI solution template? Anybody? Perfect. Only a few of you? Great. So after you finish today, you can go back and take advantage of what you've learned. So a Power BI solution template is an end-to-end application set up on common applications such as Dynamics 365, Twitter, and Salesforce, and a number of others. Pull the data from that, land it preferably in Azure SQL database. Optionally set up Azure Analysis Services on it, and bind that result to a Power BI report. So in a matter of a few clicks, all of that is provisioned in Azure, and you end up with a working solution. Depending on the amount of volume, it could be a matter of minutes, or for very large deployments of, say, Salesforce or Dynamics 365, it might take an hour to move the data. All you need is an Azure subscription. You don't need a SQL database. You don't need anything. Just provide an Azure subscription. If you have a SQL database, an Azure SQL DB that exists, we can use it. If you have an Azure Analysis Services, we can use it. Otherwise, you don't need anything except that Azure subscription to stand it all up. It is designed for IT administrators or analysts in an organization. It's also designed for partners to implement on behalf of an organization and then customize. This is not a product that is locked down. This is all of the assets I described are in your subscription and that you can modify. And we've got an example today of how a customer has modified something very, very quickly. They're also enterprise ready. Everything we stand up is with robust Azure components. You can put it in production right away, or you can spend the time extending it. OK, why should you care? If you are an analyst or an IT administrator in a company, you care because you can stand up a working solution in a matter of minutes. If you are a partner, a Microsoft partner, you care because you can present the powerful, compelling analytics on popular applications in a matter of minutes and then spend your time, not in the plumbing, but extending that analytics and adding value to it. If you are an ISV or a software vendor, you can care because you can stand up powerful analytics that your customers and then Microsoft partners can also extend. So 3 dimensions: as a customer, as a ISV partner, and as an SI partner. So let's, Justina, let's dive into Bing News.
Okay. Can you switch over? All right, so what I'm going to start out with is I'm just on the Power BI website, and I just want to show you guys where you can actually find the solution templates, what the kind of experience looks like when you actually land on one of the solution template pages, and how do you actually go about setting something like this up. So I'm going to navigate into the Solution Templates tab over here on the Power BI website. We also have actual direct links to the solution templates from the Power BI desktop as well as the Power BI service and app stores. As you can now see, we have moved our solution template apps into app stores, so they're discoverable in a lot of different places. So again, if you're looking at this from a perspective of wanting to publish your own solution templates, they're discoverable from multiple different locations, and lots of people land on this page. And this is basically the landing page for all the solution templates we've released so far. As Richard has mentioned, we're kind of focusing on a few different areas as well as expanding into new areas. The areas we've been focusing on so far is, first of all, social media. We have 3 templates for social media, one for Twitter, one for Bing News, and one for Facebook, which we just actually announced and released yesterday. And I'm going to be doing a quick demo of the Bing one as well as the Facebook one later on today. We have also been focusing a lot on the sort of CRM, ERP systems, such as specifically Dynamics 365, and we've done a little bit of Salesforce as well. So you'll see we have one for sales analytics, for Dynamics 365 as well as Salesforce. We also have one for project service automation on top of Dynamics 365. And we're going to be expanding that offering out a lot as well. And then we also focus on IT professionals with things like SCCM, and you'll see a demo of that later on today as well. So these are the areas that we focused on so far. We're going to be both expanding in those areas as well as kind of diving into new areas as time goes by. So the first template I really wanted to just dive into is this advanced search one with Bing News. And there's a few things I just want to call out on this page. You'll see as through the demos that every kind of landing page for the solution templates has a consistent look and feel. We have a description of what the solution template actually does. Inside App Stores, we have something called a test drive experience. So what I can do when I click on test drive is actually get a feel for what the solution template looks like when it's set up, except we've set it up on some sample data. And if I click on continue, this is going to open up a Power BI report embedded inside the service, and I can expand it out, and that's going to open up a new, it's going to open everything up in full screen. But if I just go back to this screen for a second, this is really, really compelling, because what you can now start doing is demoing these solution templates without ever having to even set anything up. So if we take the example of, let's say, the Dynamics one for sales analytics, imagine you're talking to your customers about, hey, do you have great sales analytics? If no, let me demo something to you right now. I'm not going to even have to touch your data. I'll show you what a fully interactive Power BI report looks like on top of sales analytics data on top of Dynamics 365. And yeah, as I've said, all the visualizations and all the reporting pages you see over here are consistent. It's just when you set this up, you'd be setting it up with your own data. So I've got this basically template open over here. And the nice thing with both the Bing News one, the Twitter one, as well as the Facebook one, is you can set this up without ever actually needing to touch any of the source applications of your own customers, because all of this data is already publicly available. You just need to either, for Twitter and Facebook, you need to have an account that you can use. For the news one, we actually spin everything up for you, so all you need to come is equipped with the key terms you're interested in, and I'll actually show you guys the end-to-end experience for the Bing News one to just show you how easy it is to set up. But basically what this specific template does is it allows you to monitor certain keywords that you might be interested in and look at how the keywords you're interested in is being perceived inside the news and connecting you with the news articles you might want to read. So this is some sample data we set up back in March on top of the Microsoft keyword. So we're basically looking and monitoring all of the news articles that we've seen coming in about Microsoft for I think a period of 2 or 3 weeks. And out of curiosity, how many of you guys came to my session yesterday? Okay, so I'm sorry, this will be a little bit of a repeat for some of you, but this is going to be more focusing on the analytics side of it as opposed to diving into the deep architecture. But there's some pretty cool and interesting visualizations that you can see over here. So for example, on the bottom left-hand corner, we have something called a topic clustering map. And what this allows you to do is actually visualize all the different themes that are emerging in the news about Microsoft in this specific case. But if you set it up on different keywords, it would be the themes about whatever keywords you're interested in. And if I zoom into this a little bit, you'll see these various circles kind of around. And we have, we're using machine learning behind the scenes. We're using a clustering algorithm that actually looks across all the different articles we are collecting and basically groups them together into these themes. And then we have these really awesome custom visualizations, which are very, very good for being able to visualize effective information retrieval. And a lot of this technology that you see here has actually been built by Microsoft Research, who we have been collaborating with extensively on these sorts of templates. So what I can, for example, do is, as a product manager, I might see something that's of interest to me. So I'm looking, at Microsoft. I see something around Google and company coming up as one of the clusters. So I might want to click into that. And there's some things that immediately kind of come to mind. So first of all, I see that the sentiment has dropped from an average of, if I click out again, of about 0.81. The sentiment is between 0 and 1. So things are looking pretty positive for Microsoft. But when I've drilled into this cluster for Google, things have really, really dropped. And if I start looking at the articles, we actually find that Google reveals Microsoft bug affecting IE and Edge. And I probably shouldn't be demoing this as a Microsoft employee, but oh well, you guys don't have to tell anyone. And what I can actually do is drill into the article itself and find out more if I want to find out what actually is being perceived and talked about in the media. And I've got the full article going on for me over here. But if you actually start, whoops, I've jumped into the wrong one. If I start looking at the various articles that have come back, which are all the documents over here, you see, these are all kind of talking about the similar subject domain. So, you see that the machine learning algorithm has been able to say, hey, these are all related topics. And I've just clustered them for you so you can just focus on the top themes that are being talked about for your company. And, you can kind of just interact with this and basically explore the various themes.
Yeah, and let me jump in for a moment. So this is interesting when it's set up on Microsoft data. What's really appealing is when it's set up on your own data or data of a customer. We have a colleague that does executive briefings with customers that come to Microsoft, and we set this up. We set up this application for that customer with keywords pertaining to their industry, and it's always just a very compelling demonstration of Power BI and analytics.
Yeah, and one of the other cool things you can actually do, we don't have it in this specific demo, but if you set it up on multiple keywords, you can start seeing how, let's say, Microsoft is being perceived in the news versus Google versus Facebook. So you could start bringing in your competitors' data into this as well and kind of just filtering this whole report page by company or comparing various visualizations by company. So it's a really interesting way of being able to visualize the kind of news articles and drill into the news articles themselves. And yeah, if you start looking at the various, we've also got things like trending keywords that are kind of appearing around this specific kind of cluster. So we can start grouping both together keywords as well as themes. So we see, advisory and arbitrary code and details coming up as certain keywords. And I can't scroll through this very well, but yeah, you see things like Microsoft Edge, reported security issues. So I can actually get a very quick feel for what are the top trending keywords within a theme. So it's a kind of a nice way of visualizing these sorts of things together. And I've also got this entity extractor visual over here. And if I just zoom out of this for a second, just to show you how this works, we are both looking at kind of an unsupervised method for collecting key phrases, which is this top visual. But we also check against a known dictionary of organizations, locations, and people and group these into this nice visual. So if I want to look for specific and scan through specific organizations and see how, let's say, Apple is being perceived in relation to Microsoft, I can see which themes, these topics which they appear in, I can see the general sentiment, and I can see the documents. And I can do this for different locations, different people. And very, very soon, we're actually going to introduce a new capability where you can bring in your own custom dictionaries through the setup experience and just upload those. And those will just programmatically appear in these reports. So if you have, let's say, a list of products or competitors or keywords that are specific to your business domains, you can include them in this template as well. So that's going to be coming soon. So I don't want to go through the whole report. I just want to kind of showcase this first page. But what I really want to now kind of go ahead and do is actually show you how you would go about setting something like this up from scratch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this test drive experience, and you'll see this Get It Now experience. And I can click the Get It Now button, and that's going to take me into basically our web-based installer. And this is the experience we have for all the different templates. I'm going to just show the web-based installer for one template because it's, it's kind of once you see in one, they're all very, very similar. And basically, this is what we use to set this up on your Azure subscription.
Interesting. How much does it cost to install this?
That's a great question. So generally, the IP that you see inside the templates is free, but all of the different Azure components that get spun up basically on top of your Azure subscription are billed for. So in this case, because we're using a lot of different machine learning components, there's quite a lot going on. But you can basically, if I click on Next, and once I connect to Azure, and I'm just going to sign in really quickly, I just want to show you guys a quick link. You can navigate to this link either from the template page or from inside the installer. We have actually a breakdown of all the costs of every single template, so you can see the Azure pricing here. So you can always get an idea of, hey, when I set this up, these are the components that are getting spun up. And then again, because everything is spun up on your Azure subscription, you can go ahead and customize things. So things like, let's say, cognitive services, which we use for doing some of the sentiment for the key phrases, come in different tiers. So we spin up, let's say, the standard one if you want a more expensive one because you think you're going to have more volume, or you want a cheaper one because you think you have less volume. You can tweak everything around inside your Azure subscription when things are set up end to end. So it's really dependent on your own preferences and on each template. So what I've done over here is I've authenticated to Azure now, and I'm going to choose one of my subscriptions. And now basically I'm kind of saying, hey, I'm giving this application permission to spin stuff up inside my Azure subscription. And on clicking next right now, what's actually happening is we're spinning up a resource group that is going to be the packaging kind of layer for all of the different resources we spin up. Now this page looks a little bit daunting. This is something we need to put in from a legal perspective. Just, yes, I'm willing to use cognitive services because you have to opt into, or no, you don't actually have to opt into them anymore. You just have to acknowledge the terms of services of conditions because their terms and services are slightly different than the Azure ones, but just something that we have to put. And this is now the part where what Richard was talking about in terms of the SQL server. So what we can actually do here is I have an option. I can either use an existing SQL server that I've already spun up and that's sitting on my subscription, or I can go ahead and ask this installer to just spin a new one. So the first question you get is, hey, do you want to use an existing SQL? Do you want to use a new one? If you select new one, you give it a name and you give it your username, and things just get spun up here. I'm going to just go ahead and just just select one of the existing databases I have and click next. And then this is the only really configuration option that you have over here, which is which search terms am I looking for. So if I want to look for, let's say, Microsoft or Azure or Power BI, I can just type these in. I can validate. I have a summary page of everything I've just filled in. I can get notified once everything is ready and set up because we do need to run some of these machine learning algorithms before the reports look the same way that I was showing you guys. That stuff needs to run. If I don't really want to be notified. And that's pretty much it. I'm just now going to have to click run, and now it's just going to go ahead and deploy everything. And I'm not going to stay on this page because once it's going to take a good 10 minutes to deploy, and I don't think that makes for the most interesting demo. We can watch this kind of taskbar kind of move along, but I don't think that's a great use of your guys' time. So I'm just going to jump back into.
I would say the end of the experience is a Power BI report that you can download, say refresh, and you see the results.
And I'll show you that, guys, later on in the demo once it's actually set up. I'll show you how you can just download the Power BI report. But that's pretty much it in terms of the setup process. As you can see, it takes about 5 minutes. It's publicly available now, so you can try it out yourself. And it takes a few minutes to deploy, and then you've got your Power BI desktop file, which will look exactly the same as the one you see over here, just with your own populated data, and you can start messing around with the reports. So from just if I go back over here for a second, we've also got links to our GitHub. So if I go and navigate to our GitHub, you can see all our various different documentation over here, as well as all the source code that we have, because we've also open sourced everything that we work on. So you can actually have a look at how we've gone about creating these templates. You can go and branch this and start, if you're interested in developing your own templates, you can start working on top of our source code. If that is something you are interested in, please, get in touch with our team. We will have our team alias up later on, as it's something, we're very interested in pursuing. But yeah, you can see everything is well documented. We have documentation for the deep dive of the architecture. We have documentation for how the reports work. What the data model looks like, how you can go about customizing these templates, so some lightweight customization ideas, as well as all the actual source code for the solution template. So yeah, that to pass back to.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
I know this will be a hard one because you asked about how much did it cost, and you said that it really depends on how big you want to scale it. But can you just like on average, I mean, what can you expect?
Yes.
So the great question. The question is, can you elaborate on how much it costs?
An average company, just say with average needs, are you looking at $10 a month, $100 a month?
And it depends. When people tell me it depends, what does it depend on? Yeah. And for the news, what you just showed, we have a breakdown of the costs of cognitive services of the Azure SQL DB. And if you add it all up on a per month cost, it's around $200 a month.
I think it's more than that.
$250 a month.
Yeah.
So $250 a month. However, it is paid for on an hourly basis. So if you stand it up and you leave it for a month or 2 months, you'll pay that cost. If you stand it up, you take a look at it for a demo. You want to demo it to somebody, you tear it down. You'll pay based on what you've used. And for each one of those, there's a detailed cost estimate document. There are a number of options on the other solution templates, and you could see what is the impact of those options on the cost.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the news one is by the default one the most expensive one. because of all the machine learning components it does use. The other ones, it depends also whether you want to include Azure Analysis Services, but that's always an optional case. But for the cases where you have very, very large data and you want it in more like near real time, that's a great way of basically adding that additional layer. But yeah, it's fully customizable, and it's fully kind of up to you as to how it's going to end up getting costed out, really.
So I just wanted
you want to go back to your slides.
Thank you. So Justina showed one of the social media solution template on the Bing News. One of the more popular solution templates that is downloaded is the System Center Configuration Manager. And I want to briefly describe it, hand it back to Justina to show you what it looks like when it's implemented right from our installer. Then I want to call a partner up who will tell a story about what they implemented on behalf of a customer and how they extended it. So people here know about System Center. If you're an IT person, you might live and breathe this thing. If you don't, it's likely present in your organization. System Center Configuration Manager is a thing that keeps track of all the computers, all the software, whether the anti-malware agent is up to date, how it reports, and whether or not it says it's healthy. And so that is the application. The System Center Configuration Manager solution template puts Power BI report on that and exposes that data not only for a manager, but for an executive or somebody who just wants to consume and say, what is the state of the information in my organization? And again, it's something that is installed, and once it's installed, it's completely customizable, that there's a lot of information there that you might be interested in doing a data mashup with other data in your organization. It's got your usernames, it's got the machines, it's got every piece of software that's installed in every machine in your organization. It's got a ton of useful information. So why don't hand it back to you, and then we'll call up Martin.
Sure.
Here.
Awesome. Yeah, so from the SCCM template, I jumped just to kind of go back a screen. Again, one of the templates that's listed over here, you see everything on the page. You've got your demo report, you've got your install now experience. For the various templates also, what I didn't call out on the previous one is we actually do have our partners listed at the bottom as well. So these are partners who have been skilled up in being able to deliver solution templates, who have gotten in touch with us, said, hey, I've delivered at least once. It could be on your own instance, it could be on someone else's instance. And we basically list them over here. You can either click directly on the partner, which is going to take you to the partners page and show you the supported apps and list SCCM. Or you can actually click on Contact Me, and that'll directly populate your information because you're already logged into AAD, so we know who you are. And this is going to send a direct links to the partners. So we're trying to minimize the friction between connecting customers to partners with regards to these solution templates. But with regards to the SCCM one, I don't actually want to demo the experience we have in the browser. I've opened up a Power BI report. It looks exactly the same as the one in the browser, with the difference that this is data that I'm not allowed to put online because this is actually Microsoft's SCCM instance. And I thought that's a little bit more exciting to demo. So this is basically the kind of the dashboard page, essentially. It's the front page of the SCCM template. So you've got all your key metrics, your key KPIs, things around health evaluation, things around malware, missing updates, and things broken down by things like OS and malware severity levels and so on, with the kind of first page. And then each page kind of does a bit of a deep dive, drill down into each of the various respective KPIs. So for example, from an endpoint protection compliance, here we are actually adding some additional value on top of the existing data in SCCM because we're doing historical snapshotting over time, and then being able to visualize that kind of historical snapshotting with trend lines to understand endpoint protection compliance across time. We've also got things around, let's say, malware, so being able to look at resolved malware and unresolved malware and being able to drill into different severity levels and see how which machines are infected with what. And again, as an SCCM manager, I can then do something actionable based on the insights that I'm seeing. We've also got things around missing updates. So again, which computers have missing updates and which missing updates have been resolved. Based on my various sort of drilling down into various things, I can actually narrow down into something and navigate back into the specific type of update that might be missing if I want to learn more about it. This is going to take me to the to the Microsoft support page. And one of the more, I think, most exciting pages around this is really the software inventory. This allows me to see every piece of software that's installed on every single machine, in this case inside Microsoft. So let's say demo this. Why don't we look at my manager's machine, and hopefully I won't get fired after this. But Richard, what's your machine number?
Oh, Rich TKO1.
Yeah, so okay. So we can see Rich TKO1 over here. So we can start, taking a look at, let's say, if I don't know, what kind of software should we look for?
My kids have been trying to get me to install Steam on it.
Do you have Steam? Is that
no,
what
I
you're saying?
not.
I should be checking
wouldn't have
this?
suggested it otherwise.
Okay. Anything else? What should we check if it's installed on Richard's laptop? What do you guys think?
I'm clean. I'm clean.
Firefox. Okay. Yeah, Firefox. That's okay. No, you don't have Firefox. Okay, you're using IE and Edge. That's what we want to see. Clearly.
Sure. Yes, I am.
All right. So I mean, I'm just messing around this, but you can see, from someone who is monitoring all the different software installed on everyone's machine, this is a really, really helpful view to just be able to drill down into that data. And we're bringing in here a bunch of the tables and a bunch of views from SCCM, but there's a lot more data that could potentially be brought in and enriched. And we have, there are cases where, partners have gone ahead and brought in more SCCM data, and there's a lot of different customizations that could be done on top of this. But I think, it will be best not coming from me, but to hear from one of our partners around how they went about, setting up the SCCM solution template. So,
And I'd like to call up Martin Wells from Markham, who implemented the solution template for a customer, and to talk about his experiences.
Great. Thanks, guys. So my name is Martin Wells. I'm with Markham Group. We're headquartered just down the road in Portland, Oregon. We are a gold certified managed partner with Microsoft. So we work very closely with the field team and also the product teams from products like Power BI. We focus on 4 things: content and collaboration, SharePoint, O365, Power Apps, workflow innovation, that's business process automation, mostly using the Nintex product, who are headquartered just across here in Bellevue. Modern apps, so that's development of mobile apps using Xamarin, using the Cortana intelligence suite, so the Bolt framework, some of the more modern ways of using .NET to get more interesting applications into our user base. And of course, Power BI Embedded also falls into that category. And then of course, everything BI. So big SQL Server shop, data platform. So the client I want to talk to you about is a client in Portland. They're called Cardno. They are a global company, so they have offices all over the world. They are an engineering services company, so a lot of their employees are in the field, lots of devices. And they have a fairly sophisticated network and device environment to take care of. So nothing like Microsoft's, of course, but still quite sophisticated for their team. So they have over 2,000 devices that they need to manage, more than 500 servers, most of those virtuals, but they still have to manage those servers. 20,000 different software programs, installed over 14 different operating systems. And so they have a very large investment in System Center in terms of how much data there is in System Center and how often they're updating it and keeping it fresh. And they were getting very frustrated because they just couldn't get out the types of reports and the types of analytics that they wanted without going into some fairly complex SQL development. And so they came to us and said, look, we're having real problems getting the data out of System Center. We've made a real investment here. But also there was a little sidebar conversation here in that they wanted to roll Power BI out to the organization. But what they wanted to do was showcase that within the IT department first. And so by doing that, then they could go around to the other executives within their organization and say, look, we think this is a great tool, and we think it's so great we're using it. So there was a little kind of hidden agenda here that they had, and they really wanted to get some of that data transformation into their organizations, and then they could use that to kind of cross-pollinate to other people. So, talk a little bit about the project. We got the template up in under a day. As you can see from the wizards, it's really easy. Coming in as a partner, we found that we did have a lot of just user credentials and password issues that we had to deal with. So it took us a little bit longer than the minutes, but we still got it up under a day, even facing all those issues. What that allowed us to do was to get into a mode of what I would call production prototyping. So within the same day, they were already getting insights into their system center data. And their first reaction was, oh my word, this doesn't look good. We just need to do a lot of data cleanup. So immediately they were getting feedback into their system center, and they went through that. But what it allowed us to do was come in and get into this iterative mode of development. So we didn't have to hold any requirements meetings or design meetings or workshops. We literally just said, here's your dashboard, start using it, tell us how you would like to enhance it. So the phase one of this project was this very quick prototyping, iterative type of approach. We ended up making over 50 just visual enhancements. That's new reports, new visuals. We made about 20 to 30 model enhancements, so new measures, new KPIs. What was interesting, though, we only changed the ETL process 3 times. And I think that talks to the soundness of the data model and the soundness of the ETL design. So, the underlying data model here was very strong, and it really allowed us to focus on the front end and the visualizations and the reports. Phase 2 of that, so we got those customizations made. They were very happy with it. Now they said, hey, we have this SQL Server database where we actually keep everything that's not in System Center, so all of our network devices, for example. So then what we did is we extended the SQL Server data mart that we had installed in the Azure SQL DB by bringing in some new tables that was all of their other network devices. So that was the first extension that we made. And so now, for the first time ever, they actually got a very holistic view of all of their devices in one dashboard. So they were very excited about that. So in terms of the overall impact, there's a quote there from the VP of IT. And I think that really sums up the success of this solution template for them. So basically, by installing this, and then they looked at their costs, their Azure costs, their Power BI subscriptions, their very expensive consultant. And what they were said is, look, even after all of those costs and projecting out those consumption over a 2-year period, our return on investment is 2 months. And they did that because they were able for the first time to take a holistic look at all of their software inventory and say, wow, we've got too many of these installed. Let's save money here. Let's save money there. So immediately they started seeing savings that were really impressive. Return on investment on this type of project in 2 months. I mean, there's no reason not to be doing this project. That's really impressive. They also got that data transformation that they were looking for. So the VP, he sat at his desk. His boss came, the CFO, and said, hey, tell me about this. He used the dashboard to answer that question within minutes. And so he was extremely happy. He's calling us up saying, hey, I've just answered this question. So, very positive. We really started driving some of that data transformation within the organization. So not just the dashboard, but the ability to do ad hoc reporting. And then in terms of next steps, they really see this as the first step in a journey. And so what they want to do is establish that IT control center, which really gives them that big view of everything that the IT organization is getting into. And by using this template, that really allowed them to take that first step in that journey. And so they're looking at this as a long-term program over 2 years maybe. And the next thing they want to do is integrate data from their help desk. So the next set of analytics they want to do is to say, do I see any trends where people with this type of software, hardware profile, are they calling the help desk more often than people with this type of profile? So, the solution template was a really good way of fast-tracking that initial first step on this roadmap, because they've been thinking about this for a long time, but it was a little daunting. Where do I start? The solution template really allowed them to do that. The second interesting thing about the solution template is that the consultant I put on this project had absolutely no experience with System Center. He had no clue what it was. And so we were able to leverage all of the intellectual property that these guys have invested into that product to get us up and running without any expertise in System Center whatsoever. And then, he was able then to use that to get up to speed really quickly. But, Microsoft have made a great investment in these solution templates, and being able to leverage that intellectual property to really fast track and get moving on these types of initiatives is really exciting for us as a partner. So thanks, guys.
Oh, thank you. So we have 15 minutes left. Just a few words about the roadmap. Justina mentioned that we just released the solution template for campaign brand management for Facebook yesterday. So we can spend a few moments showing that. Coming soon, we expect by the end of this month to have credits and collections for Dynamics 365 for operations up. A couple of other Dynamics 365 solution templates are coming for field service and customer service. We're working with the education vertical at Microsoft to stand up a school information analytics solution template that school districts will be able to see how their students are performing. So a lot of very interesting, I find some very interesting, very cool solution templates are in the pipeline. And I think with that, I'll hand it back to Justina to show the Facebook.
Yep. So as we said, we're really excited. We literally released the Facebook template yesterday afternoon. You can see it over here. And before I jump into it, just to kind of, jump back to the big one just for a second to go finish off the loop of that experience. You see it's all been set up now. I've actually gone ahead and just clicked download report. And you can see that the data is starting to come in. Some of the machine learning hasn't quite run yet. So this is going to take another hour or so before we can start seeing data around the topics and entities. But you can see we're starting to bring data in about those keywords I mentioned, which was Microsoft, Azure, and Power BI. So yeah, this installer takes about 10-15 minutes to run, and you're all set. But just to then work our way back into Facebook, we've created a quick demo around here looking at Marvel versus DC. So maybe not the most enterprise-focused demo, but it's a bit of fun,
And our lawyers don't like it, so we might turn it down.
Do they not?
No, they don't like it.
Okay, well then we'll probably take it down soon. But
we'll come with something else.
Yeah. So you can see with the Facebook template, we can follow multiple pages. So you can follow as many pages as you like. You don't have to be the owner of the page. So in this case, we're just following.
That's key. And there are two APIs, the one that are public, that you can set up a solution template on somebody else's Facebook page and compare them to competitors in your own. And then there are a set of APIs that, as an owner, only you have access to. This is public facing, so set it up on any page.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Marvel and...
And DC, yes. And what's pretty cool about the Facebook template as well is we can actually bring in historical data. And we can bring in up to 90 days worth of data. So you can see over here we've got the various slicers. I've just set it to the default last 90 days. So from the moment you set it up, if you are showing this to a customer, for example, on their own Facebook page, you can bring in that 90 days worth of data for them. So some of the things that we can do around here, again, similar to the news one I was showing you, we have these trending key phrases that are coming up. We've got our top authors who are posting. And this is looking at all of the posts that are happening on a page. We've split up posts and comments. So if you think about your Facebook pages, posts will be the kind of top level posts, and then all the comments that come underneath a post are come under comments. So what I can do, for example, here is the two top authors are Marvel and DC, not surprisingly. But then we've got someone else who's commenting, whose name is T. McTavish. Shoemake. Okay, so we can see his posts by day, and we can see that we can actually differentiate when he's posting on the Marvel page versus on the DC page. And quite interestingly, we can see generally he's posted more on the Marvel across time, but he likes more stuff on the DC page. Except we see this one random spike where he suddenly starts to post a lot of stuff on DC, and we can kind of start looking through the various posts that he has been doing. And actually what we see is he seems to be spamming the DC page with why Aquaman is awesome. over and over and over again. So apparently he really wanted to let them know this. And again, this might seem like a bit of a silly example, but you could think of this if you relate it back to enterprises. You know, you could look at what someone's commenting on your page versus a competitor's page. If they start spamming you a lot, you want to be able to see that. So this is some interesting analogies you could bring to your enterprise scenarios. Now, from a comments perspective, very, very similar looking page, but instead of looking at the posts themselves, we're looking at the various comments that are being made. And if I look at, let's say, through the trending key phrases, we can see one of the trending key phrases is Thor. You know, that doesn't surprise me too much. You know, Thor is a Marvel Norse god, so sure that, you know, we're going to have a new Thor movie coming out soon, so not surprising. But again, kind of if I start looking at the various comments, we see there's a ton of stuff being posted on Marvel across time. I think this is around when the trailer came out for Thor. But then this one random day where DC seems to think Thor is really, really popular again. So if I start, scrolling through, and what I can actually do, okay, I see post by DC over here, and oops, over here. I can actually click into this and navigate directly back into Facebook to find out what's actually happening. And over here, we can actually start, and we can see what the original post was around why everyone is suddenly commenting. And actually, if we start looking through this stuff, what we find out is this is when the Justice League trailer was just released. So everyone now started getting into these debates about Avengers versus Justice League and comparing all the various characters together, because I'm sad and I started reading through all the comments when I found out about this. And that's basically what ended up happening. So who is Thor in the Justice League kind of world? So this is why Thor suddenly became really, really popular on the DC page one day. And then I'm not going to go through all the pages just for time, to leave some time for questions. But if I go into the sentiment page as well, for sentiment, maybe what I want to do is actually split it out by page. So I want to see how the sentiment for Marvel is doing versus the sentiment for DC. So let's just jump into the Marvel sentiment for a second. And we can see generally, we have the scale between 1 and -1. Sentiment seems pretty good, except this one day where sentiment really, really took a dip for Marvel. And I can drill into this day, and I can see, we've actually labeled it whether this is negative or positive, and we see what happened to you guys. Sorry to hear that. We'll be waiting for you to come back. So now I'm really curious. What actually happened over here? So let's navigate back into Facebook and see what happened on this day. And we see that Marvel has posted, what did they post? We are discontinuing posts for a month due to unforeseen circumstances. June 22nd is when posts will continue. So we can see people were, very, very upset about this. And you actually, even without reading through the comments, you can start looking through the trending key phrases to see what might have actually happened. And I can actually start kind of putting together the various pieces, because I've got things like month and page and ASAP. I've even got something here around blame Hydra. So apparently that's what happened. I've uncovered the whole secret. And for those of you guys who aren't following Marvel, Hydra is this sort of organization looking for world domination in the Marvel world. So apparently they've taken down their Facebook page. But this is a kind of, again, this is a bit of a fun demo, but you can definitely draw the analogies between this and how you could start doing kind of these sort of enterprise scenarios and analyzing your data around that. But what I also wanted to call out, which I was really, really excited about, I got an email from one of our partners last night, a partner called Clouds on Mars. And like I said, we released this template like yesterday afternoon. And they sent me an email being like, hey, love the Facebook template. I was looking for it after you guys said it's going to be released. Actually, we have a customer who's interested, and we've already implemented a demo, and we've done some of our own customizations. And I asked them for permission, and they were happy for me to share it out. So if I go and jump over here, you can actually see they've picked up the Facebook template. Yesterday, I don't know when they had time, because they're also attending the conference, so who knows. But they actually picked up the template, and you can see they've changed around the color scheme. They've set it up for a bunch of few customer pages that they're following on their own page. And, a very similar analytics. They've changed the look and feel. But, similar sort of stuff where, we've got, let's say sentiment dipping. And I can see, for example, on this particular day, they said, unfortunately not a joke, the Seattle sales tax rate really did go up. So, we can start seeing the kind of more enterprise scenarios of what people are complaining about. And again, they must have set this up in literally a couple of hours, done their own customizations, branded it in their own way, and sent a prototype already to the customer for their comments. So you can really have a really quick turnaround with this stuff. And I was super excited to see that. I don't think they're in the room, but if you are, thank you. But yeah, no, just a really nice, another compelling scenario for how partners can pick this stuff up. Yep.
So call to action is, there's our alias. And learn more, share your ideas with us directly. We have a community site set up. If you just go to the communitypowerbi.com, you can navigate it to the direct link that's up there. We also have some ideas. We're always looking for new ideas for solution templates so we can apply that same leverage to quick start application development on other source applications. So we had a conversation with somebody yesterday about, I think it was Workday. You know, a lot of great ideas, and we'll respond to what the community asks most for. Install a template. Go to AppSource or go into Power BI Desktop. There's an icon there in the menu to click on Power BI Solution Templates, install it, and let us know what you think. You can keep, we're on Twitter. I've got, I think I doubled my followership in the last couple of days to 28. So follow Justina. She's the real social media expert, and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, I'd just like to open up for questions.
Yep.
Yes, I was curious about the Azure Compute resources necessary for the SCCM template.
Repeat the question.
Okay, the question is Azure Compute resources for the SCCM template. You can do this one of two ways. The SCCM template is a little unusual, is that we support it completely on-premise. We prefer to do it in Azure, and we actually prefer to push it in Azure, in which case the only compute is an Azure SQL DB is all that's required. And the cost of that is anywhere from, what, $30 on up, depending on the service tier you choose. Any other questions? If not, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Thank you very much.